On 5 News tonight, Britain's Olympic heroes are home, how becoming a mum widens the gender pay gap, and the funniest jokes of the year. Team GB's record-breaking athletes arrive back in style to a huge welcome. And the patriotic celebration party started on the journey back. Selfies and champagne galore.
Can't wait to just actually see my family. I can see them now, so I'm happy.
New research reveals women see their career prospects plummet even further when they start a family. And the 8-year-old boy from Birmingham killed in a grenade attack in Sweden. Also tonight, I'll speak to a comedian who came up with the funniest joke of the Edinburgh Fringe and hear some of the runners-up.
I spotted a Marmite van on the motorway. It was heading eastbound.
Why is Henry's wife covered in tooth marks? Because he's Tudor.
Welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Danny Sinha. They're our most successful Olympians in more than a century, and Team GB's medalists were treated to a hero's welcome as their personalised gold-nosed plane landed in London. With more than 60 medals to declare and nearly 80 bottles of champagne to fuel the celebrations, the mood on board was certainly jubilant. Selfies, cockpit visits and renditions of the national anthem were the order of the day, as Simon Vigar now reports.
Team GB's latest golden generation flew back on a plane with a golden nose. Flight number BA 2016. The team photo was something else, just some of the 67 medals on display. Team GB is the first in Olympic history to improve on a home medal haul at the next Games. The reception of Team GB back in GB was euphoric. Gymnastics hero Max Whitlock was focusing on the important stuff.
Can't wait to just actually see my family. I can see them now, so I'm happy.
But back on the plane, he'd still been focusing on his routine. A bit of pommel on the posh seats of first class had followed selfies and an impromptu blast of what has become their theme tune, the national anthem. There was champers for the Golden Girls of the hockey team, but there was sleep for some. Tell me that was a good party on that plane.
That was absolutely amazing. I'm not going to lie, for most of it I did sleep, but I was definitely awake for the national anthem. That was very, very exciting.
You were asleep?
Yeah, I've been tired, you know, winning medals isn't easy.
It was a good plane, yeah. I mean, BA smashed it. It was...
Yeah, but did you lot?
I couldn't possibly say.
Well, no.
We had a great time.
Amid the celebrations and all the emotions, also a sense of achievement.
This is like doing an interview in a canyon, but last question to you. What sort of pressure did you feel, or did you feel any pressure at all? Because Team GB 4 years ago was so successful, no one thought it could be done again.
No, no one did, and we've far exceeded our own expectations. We had pressure as well, being in the 4. We didn't want to be the first boat not to win since 2000.
And of course there are the homecoming parades. Stone in Staffordshire will carry Joe Clark around in his kayak.
They've already started thinking about how we're going to get the kayak up in the air and above their shoulders without breaking it. So that's quite novelty, I think. So that'd be fun.
Well, Liam's jealous now. You want that, don't you?
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. A bit more of a balance issue, I think, for me.
It's work-life balance for double gold medalist Helen Glover. She's getting married soon, but not to the pilot.
Have you thought at all about who's going to be the maid of honour?
Well, I guess I have to ask that one, don't I? It'd be a bit awkward if I did it. So yeah, Heather's my maid of honour. She's done nothing so far because she's been rowing as well. But no, she organised a hen do for me in Rio.
That's literally the only thing I've done.
A Rio hen do is quite cool. So yeah, it was great.
Now comes the time for our golden generation to enjoy it, before that biggest decision of all. Do you want to do it all again for Tokyo 2020? Simon Vigar, 5 News, Heathrow.
Well, Team GB's medal heroes returning home there. And just to say, later on in the programme, we'll be with the British Paralympians, hoping to do the same. So do stay with us for that. It's an issue that continues to plague the workplace, and new research shows that women's pay is still lagging behind that of their male colleagues, and it gets worse when they have a family. The Institute for Fiscal Studies found that whilst the overall wage gap has narrowed over the past 20 years, it's mothers who are missing out on pay rises and promotions. Julian Drucker has been finding out more.
Overall, the pay gap between men and women is slowly narrowing. But new analysis of the British workplace shows a crucial sector of the workforce is being left behind. Working mums.
Take a 5.
City lawyer Rena Goldenberg-Lynch says she saw the problem for herself. Returning to work when she'd had her 2 children, male colleagues were promoted ahead of her, she claims. She quit and now runs a consultancy business.
I do think that there's a general sense that when women have children, they are less committed because they will have conflicting priorities, their family and their work, and therefore there is an automatic assumption that they're no longer as ambitious or committed to the business.
On average, hourly pay rates for women are currently around 18% lower than for men. But this study has found that gap widens once women start a family, so that by the time their first child is 12, their hourly pay is 33% lower than their male counterparts. The research puts the difference down to mothers working fewer hours and therefore missing out on experience and promotions.
That widening of the gender pay gap after childbirth has a lot to do with women reducing their hours of paid work. And what happens then is they don't just reduce their total earnings because they're working less, but the amount they're paid per hour tends to stop growing.
Many have first-hand experience of being overlooked when they return from maternity leave.
Kind of got ignored a bit as well.
You definitely felt that?
Yeah, whereas other people did get more opportunities, especially younger people.
But others said they didn't feel penalised when they went back to their jobs.
I didn't find it hard to get promoted because I pushed myself to be promoted. I made sure I was indispensable.
I think for a period of time I would sacrifice promotion for my family and then come back at a later point.
The hard-fought wage battles of the late 60s led to a change in the law in the 70s. In the 2010s, there are many who believe the workplace remains an unequal place. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
The chairman of the education watchdog, Ofsted, has announced his resignation after calling the Isle of Wight a ghetto. David Hoare sparked a huge row earlier this month after saying the island was full of inbreeding, which was causing its schools to fail their pupils. Well, the island's MP described his comments as inaccurate, insulting and extremely unhelpful. Concerns over a shortage of doctors and other health staff may scupper plans for a 7-day NHS, according to leaked documents. Labour's Shadow Health Secretary Diane Abbott has described the situation as a scandal, but the Department of Health insists the risk assessment was just a series of worst-case scenarios. And today marks 6 months since the collapse of the boiler house at Didcot Power Station. And as families of the 3 victims held a memorial service this afternoon, there was anger at the ongoing wait to recover their bodies. The search for the missing men resumed last month, but local politicians say the delay is unacceptable and families should be allowed to mourn. Jeremy Corbyn is being accused of staging a political stunt after he was filmed last week complaining of train overcrowding while sitting on the floor of an apparently packed train. This afternoon, though, Virgin Trains released new video purporting to show the Labour leader walking past empty, unreserved seats. Well, Layla Hayes joins me now in the studio. Layla, just how did this start?
Well, it all started when Jeremy Corbyn's team released footage of the Labour leader sitting on the floor of a Virgin train from London to Newcastle. Now, he claimed that he was sitting on the floor because he couldn't get a seat. This is what he had to say at the time.
Today, this train is completely ram-packed. The staff on the train are absolutely brilliant, working really hard to help everybody. The reality is there's not enough trains. We need more of them, and they're also incredibly expensive.
Well, he went on to suggest that his experience of not being able to get a seat perhaps strengthened the argument that trains should be renationalised. But Virgin Trains have now been fighting back. They've now released CCTV, which shows Mr Corbyn walking past empty seats just before he and his team started filming. It also shows him being helped to a seat after they finished filming, where they say he sat down for the remaining 2 hours of the journey.
So what about Jeremy Corbyn? Have we heard from him today?
Well, yes, there's been a statement from Jeremy Corbyn's team. It says, when Jeremy boarded the train, he was unable to find unreserved seats, so he sat with other passengers in the corridor who were also unable to find a seat. Later in the journey, seats became available after a family were upgraded to first class, and Jeremy and the team were offered the seats by a very helpful member of staff. Well, since that statement, there's now been a further response from Virgin Trains. They say we're a bit puzzled why Jeremy couldn't find unreserved seats when he boarded the train. They were right next to him, as the photo showed. This row isn't over yet.
OK, Layla Hayes, thank you very much. Well, let's now speak to Tony Blair's former spin doctor, Lance Price, who joins me now from Avignon in southern France. And Lance, politics aside, from a former spin doctor's point of view, I mean, what do you make of all of this?
Well, it's a PR stunt that clearly and it done some damage, I'm sure, to Jeremy Corbyn's reputation for being an unspun politician, somebody who just sort of tells it how it is, who doesn't go in for all the communications techniques that were associated with Labour under the leadership of both Tony Blair and, I suppose, Gordon Brown. So it will have had an impact on his reputation. Whether it makes much difference to all those supporters of his who seem to be sticking with him, despite all the criticism that he's received on so many other subjects, it'll be hard to see whether or not this is going to be enough to derail his campaign.
I like it. Politicians, though, they often get criticised, don't they, for sitting in first class. Here we have Jeremy Corbyn. He didn't do that. I mean, they just can't win, can they?
Well, I think that this isn't all bad news for Jeremy Corbyn. People will respect him for the fact that he wasn't willing to be offered a free upgrade to first class just because he was a senior politician. And they'll also recognise that he was talking about a very serious issue. And commuters in Britain, whether it's commuting into London or some of the other big cities, will confirm that it's a daily experience, that they pay an awful lot of money for seats and then can't get a seat, and they have to stand or sit. So in that respect, the row, such as it is that we're having today, has helped him to highlight an issue where he's probably on the side of an awful lot of commuters and others in the country. So it's not all bad news for Jeremy Corbyn. In terms of helping leaders of the Labour Party with their communications. You know, if I'd been organising a trip for the leader of the Labour Party to Newcastle, I'd have done what anybody else would do, which is ring up and reserve a seat.
OK, so that would be your advice to Jeremy Corbyn's team. I mean, political stunts, though, they're nothing new, are they? What did you do a few in your day?
Oh, heavens, yes. And often they turned out badly. In fact, transport is one of the minefields for these sorts of things. I remember once we put Tony Blair on the tube, on the London Underground, and sent him off to the Dome to make it look as if he was sort of an ordinary bloke. And it was just utterly embarrassing. And he looked completely out of place. He was put on a Ryanair flight, I think, once when everyone knew he wasn't the sort of guy who travelled Ryanair very often. So you do have to be very careful about these things. But to make a bold claim, as Jeremy Corbyn did, that there weren't seats available when it seems pretty clear that there were, I think we can be fairly confident that there were, because a company with the reputation of Virgin are not going to put that reputation at risk by telling lies about something like this.
OK, and of course, Jeremy Corbyn says that he was standing up for ordinary people. This is a common topic. What about Owen Smith, though, his opposition? He's tweeted that he's proud to be genuinely standing up for ordinary people. What would you advise his team to be doing now?
I think they got it about right, actually, because there was no need for them to weigh in and make a big song and dance about it, because they could be absolutely certain that all over social media, as happened, it would be talked about, everyone would get to see it, and that the mainstream media, TV, radio and the newspapers would pick it up. So Owen Smith didn't need to say very much. He put out one very short, slightly tongue-in-cheek tweet. I think that was probably about the right level of response.
Good to have your thoughts. Thank you very much, Lance Price. An 8-year-old boy from Birmingham has been killed in a grenade attack whilst on holiday in Sweden. Yusuf Wasami was visiting relatives in Gothenburg with his family when a grenade was thrown into the room where he was sleeping. Warren Nettleford reports.
Like many 8-year-olds, Yusuf loved school and enjoyed playing with his friends. This smashed window only begins to tell the story of the horror that took place in this Swedish apartment. Yusuf's family were visiting relatives in Gothenburg for a summer holiday. Whilst he slept with his mother and brother, a live grenade was thrown inside. Yusuf was fatally wounded, whilst other members of the family escaped with minor injuries. Yusuf's father is at home in Birmingham, struggling to understand why his son is dead.
Your heart is broken, but as what we believe, Allah has given us and He take it. That's what I believe.
But why did this happen? Police say the attack may be linked to an underworld feud. A man convicted over a fatal shooting in the area last year was registered at the address. Police have been shocked by the killing. This spokesman said, "It's despicable. One wonders how people can willfully throw a grenade into an apartment without knowing who's in it." Abdi Wahid Wasame is awaiting a passport to travel to Sweden. His family are in mourning, desperate for answers. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Now it's a treatment thousands of women in the UK rely on to combat the effects of the menopause. But a major new study has found that combined hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, could make them 3 times more likely to develop breast cancer, as Frankie McCambly now reports.
75-year-old Pat Sutherland took combined HRT for 9 years to treat symptoms of the menopause.
I was assured at the time that it was something of a wonder drug and that it could do everything from curing menopausal symptoms to keeping our hearts and our skin and our brains young and healthy. It was considered something of a panacea 30 years ago.
She was later diagnosed with breast cancer, but doesn't know if the two were linked.
The combined hormone replacement therapy contains both estrogen and progesterone. It can be taken in a number of forms, including tablets, skin patches, a cream or a gel.
But a new study looking into the risks surrounding this specific combined HRT treatment has found they could have been underestimated by up to 60%. Those who took the drug were nearly 3 times more likely to develop breast cancer, with the risk increasing the longer it's used.
The research study today is the most comprehensive and most accurate study to date. So what we're doing is really providing, state-of-the-art information so that women can have the best possible advice about whether or not to take HRT, taking into account the potential increased risk in breast cancer.
But despite these latest findings, some experts say the choice on whether to take the therapy is still a very personal one. As for Pat, she wishes she had known all of the risks at the time. Frankie McCambly, 5 News.
And I'm joined now by Dr. Anuradha Arasu, who's a GP and an HRT specialist. Good evening to you. Great to have you with us. People are going to be watching this and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm on HRT and this is really confusing. Should I be on it to deal with the menopause, or, am I going to get cancer?
Well, I think this study hasn't particularly said anything new. Back in 2002, it was found that HRT containing progestogens increases the risk of breast cancer. Despite that, the British Menopause Society and the NICE guidelines were overwhelmingly positive about many of the benefits of hormones.
You think they outweigh the risk then?
Well, I think that what's being said in this particular case is in a sense nothing new. Now we're just discussing again that HRT containing progestogens increases the risk of breast cancer. So I think to really meaningfully move forward this debate, at some point we'll have to stop talking about HRT as if it's all one thing.
It isn't, because actually we're talking about the combined HRT as well. Exactly. That's very different. I mean, what's the difference of that then?
Well, interestingly, in the estrogen-only HRT, that wasn't linked with an increased risk of breast cancer. So I think that what this shows is that in the future we cannot talk about hormone replacement therapy as if it's all the same thing. And hopefully in the future we will
be looking particularly at progestogens and the differences.
So do you think most women, would they know automatically whether they were on the combined HRT or not?
Well, look, I think there's still a lot more that even doctors need to know and understand. But I think the key message would probably be do not panic. We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the last 10 years where so many women have suffered in silence. I think every woman has to empower herself. I think she has to do some research, discuss with her friends. I think this is going to be the way forward.
And let's talk about menopause, because it's pretty bad, isn't it? The symptoms are very severe at times.
I think menopause can really be quite life-changing for many, many women. It can affect everything. It can cause hot flushes, low mood, loss of libido, foggy memory, loss of muscle strength, you name it, it can be related to hormones.
So people who are out there are worried, your advice would be consult their GP then?
Absolutely.
OK, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Dr. Arasu. Thank you. Coming up on 5 News tonight. We meet Britain's Paralympians hoping to repeat Team GB's Olympic success. And we'll reveal the funniest joke of this year's Edinburgh Fringe. That's all after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News tonight. As Team GB's Olympic athletes return home, all eyes are now on our Paralympic hopefuls as they prepare for Rio. And with a record medal haul this month, the pressure's now on them to deliver the silverware when the Paralympics start in September. Charlotte Grant has been at a training camp in Wales to talk to some of the cyclists bound for Brazil.
What must be going through the minds of our Paralympians? They've watched Team GB's golden rush of medals. Now, in 2 weeks' time, it's their turn to compete. For cyclists training in Newport today, like John Allen Butterworth, an Army veteran who lost his arm in Iraq, it is added pressure.
They're all getting back now, and they're all kind of, doing things not sport-related and enjoying themselves, when I've still got a job to do. It's a little bit of pressure in terms of you want to beat their target, but I think I like that way. It's kind of, it gets you ready for it, gets you motivated.
But the shine has been taken off the Paralympics. Only 12% of tickets have been sold. Now major budget cuts are threatening to overshadow the Games.
It's very upsetting actually, but hopefully because they've kind of moved some of the sports from different venues to allow transport links to be more streamlined and more efficient and stuff. Hopefully that'll still, it won't affect the actual Games itself. So from the outside, we'll see the Paralympics and we won't even know that there's been budget cuts.
The athletes' focus now is on winning medals.
Dominating the velodrome, our cyclists helped Britain come second in the medals table at the Olympics, the best result for more than 100 years. Now our Paralympians are every bit as determined for success in Rio.
And to inspire too. Sophie Thornhill is a tandem cyclist, competing alongside her pilot, Helen Scott. The bond they have, she says, is what the Paralympics is all about.
It shows stories that people would never normally see. It puts people in the limelight that wouldn't normally be there.
Sophie, she's visually impaired and she lets me ride around that track, at God knows what speed. So it's amazing and she's a fantastic athlete, and I hope that she will inspire other visually impaired people to jump on the back of a tandem and give it a go, because that's what we do it for.
It was our Olympic athletes that got the party started. Now our Paralympic team are convinced they can finish the job. Charlotte Grant, 5 News.
Well, one country who won't be competing at the Paralympics is Russia after they lost an appeal. The Court of Arbitration for Sport said the decision to ban the country's athletes was justified after a damning report into Russia's state-run doping programme. Now, if you think you're cut out for a career as a comedian, then keep watching, because a full-time care worker has been voted as making the funniest joke of the Edinburgh Fringe. Thousands of people chose their top gag, and in just a moment we'll hear the winner. First, though, here are some of the runners-up.
I spotted a Marmite van on the motorway. It was heading eastbound.
Why is Henry's wife covered in tooth marks? Because he's Tudor.
I've been happily married for 4 years, out of a total of 10.
Very good. Well, the favourite was by Masai Graham, and he told it to me a little bit earlier.
A winning joke that got me the first prize in the top 10 list was my dad has suggested that I register for a donor card. He's a man after my own heart.
Very good. I mean, what sort of reaction did it get?
Yeah, it's a very grown-worthy joke, but as a one-liner comedian, we say a groan is as good as a laugh.
I mean, what is the secret then, Masai, to telling a really good joke?
Oh, it's the element of surprise. So with one-liners, a lot of the time the punchline is a well-known saying or proverb. For instance, a man after my own heart. So it's a case of just working backwards from the punchline and finding a setup that works both ways.
We should also point out, though, that comedy isn't your main job. You have another job that you do in daily life, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I'm a care worker in Albury, just next door to West Bromwich. So I work each week doing my care work job and then try to do at least 3 gigs a week to keep my head above water and then save up all my money and annual leave to come to Edinburgh each August.
Good news. Does comedy help you in your day job as well?
Oh, not really. I work with clients who probably wouldn't get half my jokes and can be quite aggressive sometimes. So, yeah, I'll probably end up with a black eye with some of my jokes.
Oh, dear. I mean, comedy is subjective, isn't it? I mean, not everybody likes the same things.
Oh, no. Luckily, that's how I package my show. So I do one show called 101 Clean Jokes in 30 minutes, so people know what they're coming for. Then I do another joke show called 101 Naughty Jokes in 30 minutes, so people know what they're coming for. But it's definitely subjective. Not everyone finds everything funny.
Well, certainly a fantastic achievement for you. I mean, what's next for you? Have you got any ambitions?
I'm just going to keep writing jokes, and as far as it gets me, But the festival finishes on Sunday, and then I'm back in work Monday morning. So, yeah, feet firmly on the ground, back to my day job, and see where it takes me.
Stick into the day job. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much for talking to us, Masai Graham. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
You can make up your own jokes at home. That's all from us. Sean Welby's got the weather next, and Layla's got the updates throughout the evening. From all of us here, goodbye for now.